What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Lock and Cash podcast. It is Tuesday, November 11th. 11/11. Oh, I just realized 11/11, and we're going into week 11 of the NFL season. And that is what we're going to be doing on this podcast today. We're going to be reviewing every game for week 11. Coming out of week 10 with another winning week. We had 5 total plays. We ended up going 3-2, finishing it off with the Eagles last night. While we did have a winning week, it kind of bothered me that the best bet I gave you guys on the Friday podcast was the Buccaneers. That was one of my losers, Tampa -2.5. But the rest of the plays were Houston, which I did give you that lean to Houston earlier in the week. That was another big play. We had a parlay that hit with the Lions and the Ravens. We had a teaser that hit with the Texans and the Eagles. Then the losers were Buccaneers and the Cardinals. By the way, bad move by me. I added Arizona late because it got to 7. Now, I know some people, I don't normally add plays late, but when a line moves to a key number, especially when I already saw value on the original number, like I saw value on the 6.5, but I was like, eh. And then it hit 7, and I'm like, all right, kind of have to grab it at 7. But you know what? It was a bad bet. Dead cat bounce by the Cardinals on Monday Night Football. They got destroyed by the Seahawks. But anyway, so we finished 3-2. Winning week. This week, I'll try to get you guys multiple winners. And the NFL train just keeps rolling. We're doing really well. We're up over 12 units now for the season. Picking up earlier in the season, we had some big weeks. Now just kind of like slowly stacking, which is still good. I'm not complaining. Consistency is good. And I already have some spots that I love for this week, week 11, that we'll talk about. I have sent out 3 plays already so far to our paid subscribers. So if you're interested in getting a board for the rest of the season, there's a prorated price or discount. There's also like monthly discounts, all that stuff you'll find down in the description. There's a link to the website below where you can see all the active promos that are going on if you're interested in that. But if you're not, let's get right into it. Thursday Night Football, we've got the Jets taking on the Patriots. Pats -13. A couple of 12.5s left, but 13 basically across the board. 43.5 is the total. Both teams coming off of wins. The Jets have now won 2 games in a row. But I got to say, my angle for this game will be, and I'll give you my raw numbers on these games so you can get an idea of where I think there's some just mathematical value. But the game that the Jets won against the Browns, they kind of, I don't want to say got outplayed, but they did get outgained yards per play. They didn't pass the ball well. There was one big play where Brees housed it on a screen. Other than that, there was not much to love about what you saw from the Jets. And we're talking about the Browns, who have insane home road defensive splits. The single best defense at home, but not very good on the road, and the Jets still couldn't take advantage of it. That was a little concerning to me. I know that they're missing pieces on defense, so I can excuse them on that side of the ball because of the fire sale they had before the trade deadline. But on offense, you've still kind of, you should be able to get something going. But it was a very a misleading final score for sure in that game, 27-20 Jets. And then on the other side, the Patriots just, listen, I capped that game as Tampa Bay is going to force them into 3rd and longs. Does this sound familiar? It's like Tampa Bay is going to stuff the run because they're really good against the run. They're going to force Drake May into 3rd and longs, and they're going to bring pressure and cause him to make a few mistakes. Every single thing happened that I just stated, except they converted on the 3rd and longs consistently. 3rd and 10, 3rd and 13, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. He's thrown with pressure in his face. No problem. Dot after dot after dot. What can you do? He just beat them on his own. A couple of explosive plays flipped that game upside down. The big pass at the end of the first quarter? I think it was the 75-yard touchdown pass with pressure in his face, taking a hit, throws a perfect pass, and then the 2 Henderson explosives. That's the game right there. Those 3 plays. Other than that, Tampa kept them in check, kept them into third and into obvious passing downs. On the other side, Tampa's offense had a better success rate. If you look at the numbers, better yards per play, better success rate, but 4th down variance kind of hurt them there. Just, listen, I'm not making excuses. The loss is a loss. I had the Buccaneers. I lose on the game. The Patriots, to me, profile similarly to these other teams that I don't necessarily think are elite, but look elite for a certain amount of time. Like the Jaguars looked really good early in the season. That's kind of come all the way back. Right now, a team like the Bears look really good, who I don't think are very good. The Patriots, I think, are better than those 2 teams, but I don't consider them in that elite category. Although right now they're 8-2. Crazy. So you just got to tip your cap to them. They get the Jets this week. This will probably be a win, but I can tell you that based on my raw numbers, the line is just inflated, right? And I get it. It's Drake May. Their defense is great against the run, and the Jets can't pass the ball. So You've got a perfect storm here of like, this should be a blowout, but I can just tell you that my raw numbers make this 9 and you're getting 13. Doesn't mean I'm running to play the Jets. I'm not running to play the Jets, but I do think that in a game like this, primetime divisional game on Thursday night, that it's Jets or pass. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it's Jets or pass in this game. If you're interested in playing it, you can grab a third. There's 13 and a halves out there, which is crazy. If this gets to 14, wow. The Jets are not too tough. Listen, I'm a Jets fan, but I've never let that get in the way. You guys know I talk about how shitty this team is all the time, but the Jets are not 2 touchdowns worse than the Patriots. So just if this gets to 14, if you're looking for a side, Thursday Night Football side for some action, I mean, I don't see how you could play anything else but just taking nearly 2 touchdowns with the Jets in this game. Divisional game is good. Listen, divisional games, we saw the Vikings upset the Lions. We just saw the Dolphins upset the Bills. Who would have seen that coming? These happen, right? They happen. So lean Jets there, but probably very likely a pass for me. Washington taking on Miami. This is a international game. I know I forgot one last week. This is in Madrid, Spain, guys. So neutral field spread here with Miami -2.5. Some threes starting to pop up in this game. Washington's QB situation is still going to be Marcus Mariota. You've got Tua on the other side, obviously. So listen, here's this spread, right? I'm going to give you my raw number again, and it's very rare that we start. The reason why I'm giving you my spreads on these games is because it's very rare that I'm this far off market to start the pod. 2 straight games. I have this Washington -0.5 pick. I could even say -1. How are they getting 3 in the market? Washington is +3. This is a gross overreaction to what Miami just did. Look at what Miami's done over the last 4 weeks. They go into Cleveland and get destroyed by the Browns, right? And then everyone's like, dead team. At that point, they've lost several games in a row. Miami's dead. They've quit on McDaniel. They've quit on the season. They go into Atlanta as a touchdown underdog, and they rock the Falcons and pull off the upset. Then everyone's like, whoa, all right, maybe they're not dead. Then they go into Thursday Night Football, short week, get destroyed by the Ravens. They're like, see, it was just a day. So what do they do after that? They come back home. They upset the Bills as a nearly 10-point dog at home. It was 8.5. Up, down, up, down, up, down. So off of the upset, no way I can come back and lay points with the Dolphins. No way, especially with Tua. He's already not great when he's traveling outdoors. Now you're going to international. Not interested at all in the Dolphins. The only way I would look here is taking the full field goal with Washington, but the matchup actually puts me off of that. Because even though everything I just said I do believe to be true, the matchup is not great on paper. The Commanders' defense struggles with speed and specifically at the skill positions, and that's what Miami does have. They do have that, and you saw that on with Detroit. Detroit killed Washington. They just cannot keep up. They're slower on the linebacking and the back end. They're more of like a physical defense, but they've got so many injuries that they can't do what they do well. Now, Dan Quinn now will take over defensive play calling. We'll see if that helps. He was a good DC in the past. He is considered more of a defensive coach. We'll see if that helps. But that's the only way that I could look at this game is buying Washington with the full 3, nothing else. I'm not interested in teasing or anything like that. It would have to be the Commanders getting a full field goal in this game. But again, for me, hard pass. You guys know how I am by now. If you watch 10 weeks of my podcast, very selective with my plays. We don't usually have more than 4 or 5 plays in a week. Lots of favorites. The way I handicap, and I can go on a little side talk about this. Like your handicapping process will often dictate where you go. And some guys are more dog. They are better at identifying dogs. Some guys are better at identifying value on favorites. My handicapping process is heavily geared towards favorites. I live 70 to 75% of my bets throughout the season are going to be on chalk. It's going to be laying points. This is how it is for me. So for me to start off by saying lean Jets +13, lean Commanders +3. It's kind of unusual, but I'm seeing some pretty big overreactions on these 2 games in terms of just the point spread. So Washington or pass for that game for me, but probably very likely a pass. All right, the Packers are taking on the Giants. Man, does Green Bay need a freaking win? Green Bay -7 on the road, 43.5 is your total. Excuse me. The Giants will be very likely without Dart in this game. We don't know for sure yet, but I cannot imagine that they would throw him back out there after what we saw in Chicago this past weekend. Not only did he because yes, he went for that run and it was clear that he fell and it looked like he was out for a second. Like that was a clear to me, every sign of a concussion. But not only that, you go back and look at some of their other games. I mean, that Thursday night game with the Eagles, he was clearly concussed in that game. Took him to the tent and they brought him right back out. That was the whole meme thing with Dayball checking in the tent. Like, this kid has probably suffered 3, maybe 4 concussions because of the way he plays and the way he runs. But now that it was that extreme and he looked pretty out on the like, he got right back up, but there was a second there where he was like laid out. Now that it was that extreme and now that it's out there and it's gonna be talked about more on social media, I think there's a very small chance Dart goes in this game. I think you're getting Russell Wilson. I don't know why they would start Wilson over Winston, but if you get Russell Wilson, I mean, but either way, guys, either way, Green Bay, you cannot lose this game. The Packers looked horrible last night offensively. The defense is really, really good, and I don't even see how the Giants, no matter which backup comes in, how do they score any points in this game? But the offense for Green Bay has got to get something going. The loss of Tucker Kraft, I think, is huge, and we did talk about that last week that it could be big, but I think it might even be bigger than I might have undersold it. They just can't move. They can move the ball a bit here and there, but there's no consistency. It is a little bit predictable. I know people were posting that clip around of the Eagles lineman calling out the play. It's a little bit predictable, but it's not just that. I just think it's not. There's no groove. There's no rhythm. It's indecisive, and this is 2 weeks straight now. This is not just like, oh, the Eagles great defense. No, they looked exactly the same against the Panthers. And it was even worse because against a really good Eagles defense. So problems for Green Bay. What do I have this line? I have a Green Bay -6.5. So the full 7, I think the only way I would play this game is Green Bay in moneyline parlays or teasers. I'm not interested. I don't think the Giants are a live home dog at all in this game, but I just want to if they were to pull off that, man, the Packers are in big trouble, man. They're in the division now. I mean, the Lions don't give away games. So now that the Lions are in front, there's very few weeks where you can rely on the Lions to lose to their opponent. Maybe one of them is next week. They get the Eagles, but you're in a tough spot now, Green Bay, where you were leading the division, everything was looking good, and then you have lost now. Oh man, the Browns game inexplicable, the Panthers game inexplicable, and now you lose to a good team, the Eagles. But 7 points. What a brutal, brutal game for the Packers. Expecting a bounce back, but listen, they should handle the Giants. All right, that's all. If the Packers have any kind of trouble in this game, yeah, I think that's a pretty bad sign going forward. So they should roll in this one, especially just the Giants defense. There's no resistance there. So expecting Green Bay to win this game by double digits. Tampa Bay Buccaneers headed to Buffalo, taking on Josh Allen and the Bills as 5.5-point dogs on the road. So Buffalo -5.5 is the line. 47.5 is the total. This was a 6, by the way, on the look ahead. I remember looking at it Sunday morning before Week 10 kicked off, and this was sitting at 6. So maybe the Buffalo loss at Miami has given us a little bit of value here. I make this line 6.5 if I push it a little bit with my ratings. So I lean slightly to the Bills. I think it's a good bounce back spot for them coming back home. They do have one of the best home field advantages in the NFL. But at the same time, Baker Mayfield does what he does best in these situations. When he is an underdog, when he's coming off of a loss, when he's on the road. I think Tampa's like the number 1 road team over the last couple of years, road dog. So to me, you could go either way with this. I slightly lean to Buffalo, but I have a hard time kind of reading, like, there's a little bit of line value, I think, but is it enough for me to fire on it? Not really. Neither situational spot is super advantageous to one side. Like, both teams are coming off of a loss as favorites. Both teams tend to do good in the spot they're in. Buffalo's really good at home. Tampa Bay really good as a road dog. To me, I just don't see much in this game. What I could sell you on potentially is a 47.5, which a couple of books have 47.5 to go over the total in this game, because these are 2 very good offenses that just had very poor games, both of them. The Bills struggled mightily on offense in Miami. The Buccaneers moved the ball, had a better success rate than the Patriots, but 4th down variance kind of killed them. They couldn't finish drives. So to me, is this a game where you could see a bounce back by both offenses, both teams coming in with an extra focus on offense? I think so. So I would lean slightly to the over 47.5 in this one, which I make closer to 49. But in terms of the spread, if you're just looking for a side, lean slightly to the Bills. In terms of the matchup, though, is another thing that's keeping me off of this game because even though I see a little bit of line value in the Bills, you know what the Bills want to do with Cook? They want to establish the run, and the Buccaneers are very good at stopping it. Now, with that being said, can Josh Allen hurt you when they start blitzing with their DBs and stuff, which Bowles loves to do? Of course, it's Josh Allen. So, expecting two bounce back offensive performances, and that just leads me to basically one angle in this game, which I think is the strongest angle, is taking the over 47.5 between the Buccaneers and the Bills. All right, next one up, we're headed to the AFC North. We got the Bengals taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pitt minus 5.5 in this game. 49.5 is the total. The Bengals are coming out of their bye week. Did they do anything in the bye to shore up this defense? This defense is the problem, right? Because you watch Pitt on Sunday Night Football against the Chargers. They got outplayed in the trenches physically. They couldn't move the ball. Pressure on Rodgers, guys covered downfield, forcing him to take the small stuff. Maybe he was a little impatient trying to do that. Are the Bengals going to make you do any of that? I don't know. I'm not sure that defense can be fixed. There is so little resistance from the Bengals defense, and that's what concerns me in this game. Even though I do think that, at the same time, I look at it and I'm like, yeah, but you know what? They could win this game. They're a live dog. Flacco's playing really well. The Pittsburgh defense is good. It has been better, I'll say. I did give them a lot of shit early in the season. They were playing like crap. They played much better against Indy, but a lot of that I think was Daniel Jones. They played okay against the Chargers. It wasn't like the game was, the final score made it look very ugly, but the Chargers didn't exactly dominate the game on offense, right? They didn't put up like 35, 40 points. So like they're getting better, and certainly against a non-mobile quarterback like Flacco, who's just a statue back there, guys like Watt can certainly break this game. So I consider that in my handicap, but I also consider the fact that, and I know this might seem like a silly angle, but Joe Burrow's back to practicing this week. What does that do to the mindset of the Bengals, who now kind of there's light at the end of the tunnel? Not that Flacco's playing poorly, because he's not. The offense has been great. But it's kind of like you got your guy back, your leader's back. Maybe he's going to take over soon. Does that give anybody a boost? Does that give them some more hope? The season's not lost yet, right? Even with the loss against the Jets, it's not lost yet. So the Bengals coming out of the bye, maybe they fixed some things on defense. I think they can be live in this game. Another thing keeping me off of it, though, they already did this. They already pulled off this upset. Thursday Night Football game, Bengals were this exact number, 5.5 dogs, but they were at home, and they won the game outright. That was a crazy back and forth game. The Steelers got whatever they wanted offensively in that game. I fear they may do that again in this game. And I just don't trust Cincinnati to fix this defense. I don't even think it can maybe be, like, I just think it's a talent problem, a scheme problem. Just not a lot of confidence for me enough to take the Bengals. So I would lean Bengals in this game, getting the 5.5. It's an AFC North divisional battle. Those games tend to be close, but just not enough confidence that they were able to fix what they need to fix during the bye. And it is kind of that bounce back for the Steelers, right? They played a great game at home against the Colts. Then they lay an egg on the road. Now they go back home. Familiar territory. It's a tough place to play. Tomlin's a good spot, but all that stuff. Even with all that, I just think the line's a little bit rich at 5.5. I would lean slightly to Cincinnati. Listen, if you're betting any Bengals game right now, though, how do you just not auto take the over? They have just been an automatic over team. These last few, basically the last month, and you got another chance here at 48.5 you can grab. So can both teams give you, 25, 20, probably 24 points each, probably very likely that happens. So lean to the over in this game, lean to the Bengals, but don't love it. It's kind of sitting in a dead spot. You're not, 5.5, 4.5, not super key numbers. So maybe you wait and you get a 6 here, but I kind of suspect this might go the other way. So if you like the Bengals, I would grab it sooner rather than later. All right, next one up, AFC South game. We've got the Texans taking on the Tennessee Titans. Houston -7 on the road. The 7.5s have been taken out in this one. 39.5 is the total. 38.5 is the total. I had the Texans in week 10. That was one of my bigger plays of the week. A little fortunate to win it at the end. I will say this. Their matchup with the Jaguars, they thoroughly outplayed the Jaguars in that game. The Jaguars gave up to Davis Mills and the Houston Texans offense 6.6 yards per play. That's crazy. And on the other side, they got held in check offensively basically the whole game. They were gifted. Remember this. The Jaguars finished this game with 29 points. They were gifted 17 of them. Okay, with a kick return for a touchdown and 2 turnovers for short fields that led to a touchdown and a field goal. They were gifted by the Texans 17 points and still lost the game. That's how bad this team is, the Jaguars. So, I say that to say that I don't want to overreact to the Houston comeback win and Mills is the guy now and he knows what he's doing and he's a great backup. They don't have to worry. Stroud, take your time. No, I would not consider that to be the case. I think we got fortunate. I still think it was the right side. Then all the numbers say that it was the right side, but he had some really bad luck early. Fortunately, they were able to overcome it. Now, the other side, Tennessee. What happens coming out of your bye week? Again, this is the unknown about betting on below average, mediocre teams. Do you trust them to fix their issues during the bye week? This is what I just talked about with the Bengals. The Titans have a lot of issues, obviously. Coach is gone. Interim coach has to come in, or coach has to step in. Does the bye give him more time to familiarize himself with Cam Ward? The pressers seem like they're saying that is the case. Get to know each other a little bit better, see what their issues, how do we click, where's the chemistry, whatever. Get healthier on defense. We're looking like Jeffrey Simmons is trending towards being back in this game. He's certainly a massive piece of that. I mean, that defense is nothing without him. He's the only guy that can break the game. So getting Simmons back will be very important against this Houston offensive line. So if he's in and they're coming off the bye and it's a home dog, it's a little bit different than the road. Getting a full touchdown. I was slightly into the Titans, right? Do I love it? No. But here's the thing. Do I love teasing Houston down? No. I think I would not be surprised at all if I'm recording this next week and the Titans just upset the Texans. I would not be surprised at all, guys. It's a divisional game. Guys, the first time these teams played, it was in Houston, where the Texans have been so much better at home this year. And the game was 6-0 in the third quarter. Just remember that. It ended up being 26-0 final score, I believe it was. 6-0 in the third quarter. It was not comfortable until the fourth. It snowballed. So I lean Titans in this game. Again, I'm not running to play it, but what I'd like to do on the show is just kind of give you where the market's looking. It's definitely been Tennessee money early. And I like to give you my thoughts on situational spots and kind of give you a lean, even if it's not a hard play. And so far, I've done that for every game. I would say this so far is probably the strongest situational spot of any of the games that we've spoken about so far, favoring the Tennessee Titans. Coming out of the bye, getting the full touchdown as a home dog. And by the way, this spread is pricing CJ Stroud, I believe, to play. And I'm not so sure that he plays. Excuse me. Concussions can sometimes take a bit longer, and his was a pretty nasty one. So likely he'll be back, but I'm not super I don't think it's rock solid that Stroud will be back in this game. I think there's a chance you could see a second game of Davis Mills. So just be careful with that as well. If you want to wait and maybe you want to grab Houston, but you want to wait, you could get a horrible line here if you grab him now. So I would just be careful with that, but likely Stroud plays, but I don't think it's 100. I don't even think it's 90%. So just be careful with that. Lean for me to the Titans getting the 7 in this one. All right, the Bears are taking on the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota. Vikings -3 across the board. 48.5 is the total. Out of the games we've spoken of so far, this is the game that I have the strongest opinion on. I want to fade the Bears every chance I get for the remainder of the season. As long as it's not against a dog shit team. Like last week, I wanted to do it. I leaned to the Giants on here, but when I mentioned it, it was 3.5. And I was like, you know what? I leaned to the Giants, but they're such a shit team, blah, blah. Ended up closing 4.5. They cover by the hook. Numbers are really important. They matter. But the Bears are, I'm not saying they're a bad team. Don't get me wrong when I talk about teams this way. I know sometimes people are fans of certain teams. I don't have anything against any particular team. I just look at numbers and that informs my outlook on a team or my handicap. And the Bears are playing very unsustainable football. Okay, very unsustainable. They are number one in offense caused by their defense, so they're thriving on takeaways. They're thriving on the other team doing silly things with the football, turning it over, fumbling like Dart, um, not converting fourth downs, etc. All these things. And on the other side, their defense is nearly dead last, bottom five in almost every defensive metric. I mean, we're talking yards per play, points allowed, yards allowed, like everything. EPA, success rate, like everything on rush and pass. It's bad. And I think this is a game where you have a much better coaching staff playing their second straight home game at home, who, by the way, just did a solid job against the Ravens won that game by 8, but it was never put away fully. And it was 10-9 at half. I was stunned. I thought the Ravens were going to blow their doors off. The Vikings can play defense. They've got a good defensive coordinator that loves these exotic blitz heavy schemes going up against a young quarterback with a bad O-line. Is going to be running for his life in this game. And I know Caleb Williams makes a lot of good plays when he's running for his life. That's probably what he does best. But I think in this one it'll be too much. I don't think McCarthy is very good. All right. But if I'm going to cut him any slack, he did go into Detroit and lead his team to win. Didn't do much. Came back home against a fully healthy, heavily motivated Ravens defense and had a bit of a tough time, but a really tough matchup. Man, he gets a break this week. This is as easy of a cupcake matchup as you can get. If the Vikings can't put points up on this Bears defense, then we got bigger problems. So I lean heavily to Minnesota in this game, -3. Love it. Wish I would have taken the 2.5 earlier, but still love -3, flat or -105. There's some of those available. But really like the Vikings in this one. Like I said, defense, coaching, and I think a really good matchup for their offense off of a loss to keep your season alive, to any chance that your season is going to still be alive is this game right here. I like the spot for them. And the Bears are on a crate. Was it won 6 out of their last 7 games? I think it was 6 out of their last 7 games. And a lot of those wins were fluky wins. A couple of 1-point wins in there, stealing games left and right. Stole that game from the Giants on Sunday. They shouldn't have won that game. They should have lost that game. So the Bears are doing things that we always, as bettors, we love to see teams doing this. Jacksonville was doing it early in the season. Washington last year. We love to see these teams doing this because it is an opportunity to bet against them because we know how numbers even out in the NFL. So heavy, heavy, heavy lean to the Vikings -3 in this game. All right, let's head over to the NFC South. We got the Panthers taking on the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons -3.5 at home, 42.5 is your total in this game. A couple of young quarterbacks in this one. These teams did play each other earlier in the year, and the Panthers stomped the Falcons at home as dogs, as 6-point dogs at home, 30-0, if you remember that game. So you got a revenge spot here for Atlanta. But forget the revenge, guys. Atlanta, your season this is it. You have to, this is as must win of a game that is on the slate this week for the Atlanta Falcons. They played really well against the Colts. All right. They led for a lot of that game. The Falcons were right there. They could have won that game. Tough loss to take, but it showed me something. I know this is a bad travel spot. I get it. You got to come back home from Berlin. Totally get it. And it's a divisional game. The Panthers are coming off of a loss at home, so they're going to be, I get all that. But you know what? Aside from the Green Bay win, again, these are just outliers that you kind of just have to throw out. Like I have to just say that Green Bay win, Carolina winning in Green Bay, is as big of an outlier as you're ever going to find. Do I just throw it out? Aside from that game, they've been a horrific road team. Horrific. And they already beat the Falcons, so you got the revenge angle. It's not a great match. I know Carolina's been decent against the run, but it should be a good matchup for Penix in this game. Man, my raw number makes this 4.5. That's another thing that's add some value. I make it Atlanta -4.5. I don't want to say heavily, but this is a pretty strong lean to the Falcons in this game. But again, when you just got to be careful with like these average to below average teams. Like Atlanta is a slightly below average team in my power ratings. They're laying points at home in a divisional game. No matter how great the spot is, you just got to be a little careful with them. It's very tricky. So I lean Atlanta, but I don't want to tell you that I love it as I don't love it. Would I be surprised if the Panthers won this game? No, because that's how these divisional matchups are. But the 3.5 here is what, because I could see this landing on 3. So I would not run to lay 3.5 with Atlanta, even though I make it 4.5. A 3 would have been good. I probably would have taken a 3 in this game. Situationally, though, Atlanta needs this game like blood. They need this game so badly. And I think you'll see that. I don't love their coaching staff, but I think you'll see a lot of urgency from them in this one. And I think the Falcons will end up coming out with the win. All right, another spread around 3. We got a lot of tight spreads this week. I love weeks like this. Chargers minus 2.5 to 3 on the road against the Jacksonville Jaguars. 43.5 is your total. I talked a lot of shit about the Jaguars already in this podcast, and we haven't even gone to their game. As you can tell, I'm not a fan of this team. I don't mean like fandom. I mean like from a betting perspective. I don't love the metrics that the Jaguars have. They profile to me as a team that I want to fade week in, week out against very good teams. And that is what we have this week. So I really like the Chargers in this game. I took the Chargers in this game, I should say, minus 2.5. I got a 2.5 at minus 120. I'm comfortable with that. Would I lay 3? Yes, I would lay 3, but I would lay 3 at minus 105 or better because price matters, like I always tell you guys. So minus 105 or better, you're good to go on the 3. Again, the Jaguars early in the season were living off turnovers. Then they got a couple of fluky wins. Like, listen, the game that they played against Houston, I know it could be appealing to then turn around and back them after a game like that, but they should have never had that lead in the first place. They got so thoroughly outplayed in that game. It's unbelievable. Look at the as handicappers, we pay attention to certain statistics more than others, okay? We're not looking at final score, points allowed, we're looking at yards per play is a huge one. Yards per play. We're looking at turnovers, fourth down stuff, yes, but EPA, success rate, QB success rate, things like that. Under pressure, all of we're looking at some of the more advanced stuff, but I want to really hammer home, guys, yards per play. They got killed by the Texans. The adjusted final score by most outlets that I've seen, most sources for that game was like a 10-point plus Texans win. They should have never had a lead in that game. Should have never led for any moment of it. It's very concerning to me what you're seeing with the Jaguars because Lawrence, I think, is not good. I think he's actually even regressed a little bit in terms of his processing and his decision-making. Not talent, obviously, but just processing, decision-making. The defense is like a sieve. It's really bad. Even when the Texans were struggling, they were still moving the ball. And that was with Davis Mills. So the Chargers with Herbert, the way they play, the way they go pass heavy, oh man, I see this being a really bad matchup for the Jaguars. And on the other side, their defense is now, they dealt with a lot of injuries towards the middle, after a few weeks of the season. But now they're getting healthier on that side of the ball, and it's showing. They're back to that earlier form that they had. They're forcing you to dink and dunk. They never give you the explosives. Jaguars have been living off of explosives. They don't give you those. They force you to play slow, methodical. They basically say as a defense, how patient can you be to get this touchdown on this drive? And most teams end up becoming impatient, forcing them to make mistakes. So I really like the stylistic matchup here. I love the coaching edge as well for Harbaugh over Cohen. Harbaugh has been an excellent road favorite. I think it's like 12-4, 13-4, something like that. ATS on the road, laying points. So I think for me here, you've got a little bit of line value because I make it 3 and I got 2.5. So I think you have a little bit of line value. I think you have a coaching edge, a defensive edge, a huge quarterback edge, and I think you have a stylistic matchup edge. The only thing that I would say probably maybe you want to give me a sell on the situational spot being buy low, sell high, but nothing really too crazy happened. Like the Chargers didn't put up 45 points on the Steelers. Now everyone's suddenly crowning the Chargers. It's not happening. It's just, they got a regular win, prime time. And now they're going on the road where they've been very good in these spots on the road, especially when they're laying small numbers on the road, not those big spreads they were laying like 10 against the Titans or whatever, crazy line, 7 against the Giants, whatever it was. This spread, manageable. I think the Chargers win and cover this game. All right, next one up, we got oh man, this might be your game. There's a couple of great games this week, but this is a really good one. The Seahawks taking on the Rams. LA -3 at home, 48.5 is the total. Battle of the juggernauts here over in the NFC West. Man, Seattle looks unstoppable. The Rams look unstoppable. Seattle looks like nails on defense. The Rams look like nails on defense. Sam Darnold looks like an MVP candidate. Matthew Stafford looks like an MVP candidate. These teams are just lighting it up week in, week out. They both come into this game red hot. This is going to tell us a lot, I think, about the Seahawks. Listen, we know what the Rams are. The Rams are Super Bowl champions at coach and quarterback, which is the two most important things. They've got a young, fresh, hungry defense, which I love. That's what you want. They've got skill position talent like you wouldn't believe. I mean, they have so many weapons on offense. Stafford is playing at an insanely high level. You know how good McVay is in games like this. The other side is the question mark. The upstart coming of age, whatever, Seahawks with the young coach. Darnold's still looking to prove, even after last year, Darnold is still kind of like in this mode where he has to prove himself because of the way it ended last year. And they've got by far, the best offensive metrics that we've seen in a long time by any team ever. Like in terms of like things like DVOA, EPA, success rate, they're so high. It's unbelievable what they're doing. Now, the question is, can they do that in a big spot on the road, divisional game? This is probably, you know, this is the best team. This is definitely the best team that the Seahawks have played so far this year. Their two losses were to the 49ers and their other loss was to the Buccaneers. This is the best team. So this is going to be a huge test for them. I make this game 3. So I'm right on market in this game. The only way I would have played it is at an early 2.5, or if it gets back there, I would maybe, I don't even know if I would. I thought about teasing up Seattle early. Then I spoke to a couple of friends who made some great cases for the Rams -2.5, but that number's gone. I will probably be on the sidelines on this one. And I know that kind of sucks. It's like one of the biggest games of the week. I'm not going to have any action on it, but I just don't see a situation. One thing that I hate, and I spoke about this earlier with the Buccaneers-Bills game, right? When two teams come in very similar situations, like they're both coming off of a loss as favorites. Well, both of these teams are coming in just red hot, beating up on everyone, putting up 40-plus points per game, dominating blowouts. Games are not even close. How do you really know what to cap situationally for that? You really don't. So you just have to rely on your numbers and trust that your math is good, your data is good. And for me, the numbers are right exactly where the market is. So I just don't see anything on this game. The one thing that I will say is the Rams don't have, obviously we know this already, don't have a great home field advantage. And the Seahawks have been unbelievable. They haven't lost on the road yet this season. And I believe under Mike Macdonald, they're now, I want to say 11-1 or 12-1 straight up on the road. So they are really this team that is just like a road warrior type of team. But this will certainly be there. But I think this game will tell us everything we need to know about the Seahawks going forward, whether or not they're legit contenders. I think this will tell us a lot because we know the Rams are for sure. We don't know that about the Seahawks yet. So in terms of the matchup, I think it's going to be very interesting. The one side of the ball that I think is going to be very interesting is Darnold and their offense versus the Rams defense. I want to see how that looks more than anything else. But again, like I said, small lean to the Rams, but probably won't play this game. All right, the next one up is the 49ers at the Cardinals. San Francisco -2.5 on the road, 48.5 is total. I don't have much on this game. I lean slightly to the Niners just because of how bad the Cardinals looked. I think that you kind of saw, there was a lot of talk and chatter about like, oh, they'll shut down Murray for the rest of the season and just look how good Brissett looks. Well, I think you kind of saw why backup quarterbacks are backup quarterbacks. They always run their course, and eventually it comes crumbling down, and that's why you have a starter and a backup. And they give you a couple of good games, but then it all came crumbling down against the Seahawks. Now, the 49ers defense, if fully healthy, would be right there in terms of how good they are, but as with the Seahawks, but they're not fully healthy. They're far from healthy. So I think Arizona could have more success offensively in this game. But on the other side, I just, listen, even in the blowout, Mac Jones is playing really well, man. He's playing very well. And I could see him having more success this week against his Cardinals. Like, they're not throwing the ball deep. Arizona's strength on defense is their secondary. And the 49ers are not even trying to throw the ball deep. Everything is short. Everything is little dinks and dunks, but well-timed, well-schemed, quick before pressure can get there. Guys get open quickly. Always having the right reads at the line of scrimmage. And he's playing very good football, Mac Jones. Really good on offense. The Niners offense is not the problem. It's just a matter of whether they can get stops or not. I think in this particular matchup, they'll be able to get enough stops. So I lean San Francisco in the game. My numbers, I have a 2, so I don't even see any value, but just a lean for me personally, matchup-wise. And situationally, I lean to the 49ers in this game. Also, sneaky good coaching edge. Shanahan's done a great job. I mean, they have nothing to work with on defense. The fact that they have 6 wins is unbelievable. He's done a great job. Next game, Ravens at Browns. Baltimore -8 in this one. 39.5 is the total. Oh, man. Listen, the Ravens, I think, are fully back. They got shut down a little bit in the first half, had a much better second half against the Vikings. Since their bye week, which is all the talk during their bye week, remember that podcast I did during their bye was like, all right, they got to come out. They're 1-5. Things have to, whatever. They're going to get healthier. Well, since then, they've gone perfect. They've won and covered every game. This now is a little bit tricky, though, because you're on the road against a divisional opponent. You already blew them out earlier this year. And this is statistically the number 1 defense at home in the league. The Browns allow less than 4 yards per play at home on defense. Now, all right, you guys remember earlier in the season, Green Bay was laying this exact number on the road in Cleveland, and we took the Browns with the points and money line, and we got a nice plus 400 winner or whatever it was when they won the game outright. The Browns have done that several times. They did that last year for us against this Ravens team, won as a 9-point dog at home. This year against the Packers, 8-point dog at home. The defense can do some stuff at home, which is why I always run to back them in these spots with huge spreads at home. Here's the problem, though. That game last year against the Ravens, Jameis Winston was the quarterback. That game this year against the Packers, Joe Flacco was the quarterback at home as a big dog. Those guys are way different than freaking Dillon Gabriel. This is a disaster. They have to move on from. They're not going to do it this week, but this is your typical run to bet the Browns at home as a huge dog in a divisional game. We've seen this play out over and over the last few years, but I can't do it with Dillon Gabriel. They usually in these spots, every time in these spots, they've had a veteran quarterback, an older guy who wouldn't start on any other team, and they have led them to these outright wins. Not a guy like Dillon Gabriel. He's just not good. And I think this week, even though the numbers say to take the Browns, and this is a classic spot where they give the Ravens a bunch of trouble, and it's like inexplicable. Oh, how could the Ravens? I know. We've seen the story play out before, but I don't think it's happening again with Dillon. The defense could have a good game. I just don't think they're going to be able to score any points. The Ravens defense is now fully healthy, still incredibly motivated. They can't afford to lose games. You've got another divisional matchup on the other side, so either one of the teams is guaranteed a loss, so you can catch up. The Ravens got to win. I think they win. I have no hesitation putting them in teasers or parlays. Not running to lay 8. I'm not saying that, but would I be surprised if they cover the 8? No, because I do think Gabriel is just not. This is not a good matchup for him. He's just not a good quarterback. And I do think that if they do get blown out in this game, you'll probably see them make the switch at quarterback. And if they don't, then something weird is just going on. So lean to the Ravens in this one in any way you want to play it. Chiefs at Broncos. KC -3.5 on the road. 43.5 is the total. My initial thoughts on this game were, well, the Chiefs just dropped a massive one prior to their bye week. They need to come out. They're 5-4. The division is going to be very tough to recover that. I think it's probably done. Broncos or Chargers will win it. You're quite behind now, not just for the division, but do you even make the freaking playoffs if you're the Kansas City Chiefs? This is a massive game because this will give you a win, and this will give you a win on a divisional opponent that you could maybe steal a spot from. I mean, it doesn't get much bigger than this. And in games that are this big, I know which guy I want to back. I just think the number's a bit high. And I'm not even a fan of the Broncos. Like, I played the Broncos against the Cowboys that week just because of the matchup. But I don't love Knicks. They have a good defense. But that's about it. And I love Mahomes in this Chiefs offense. The problem is I have this line 2.5, so I'm a little surprised. The Mahomes tax, maybe the Chiefs tax is in play here. Stylistically, you should come out of the bye week and the kitchen sink is going to be ready for Andy Reid. and the Chiefs, they get a good matchup on defense finally, where they should be able to limit this Broncos offense, which is very limited already. Should be able to limit it even more. And yes, it's a good Denver defense, but you know what the Chiefs do. The Chiefs will be able to find a way to put up points. I lean Chiefs. I will easily play Chiefs in parlays. If I want to have a couple of two-leggers, I'll throw the Chiefs as one of them. But I can't sit, even though I like them to win this game, I cannot sit here and recommend you lay 4 or 3.5, which is what's out there, when I line the game at 2.5 based on my power ratings. So if this was 3 or better, I would be playing it. But as it stands right now, I can only play the Chiefs in parlays, not against the spread. And, the Chiefs have not been good covering the spread. They win a lot of these games on the road north of a field goal, but they haven't been good at covering them. So I could see a play on Denver +4. Even if the Chiefs win, it might end up being a close game. We'll see. Not much on that one in terms of like the situational spot is not like super ideal for either team. I mean, Chiefs are coming out of their bye. That's good for them. But the Broncos also are coming off of extra rest. That's good for them. They stay home. They don't have to travel. These games they look good on paper. It's like, oh, it's going to be a great game. Got to have action on it. Listen, I'm only betting games if I see an actual edge that I think I have. Next one up, Lions taking on the Eagles. Eagles -2.5 here at home. 46.5 is your total. This is your Sunday night football game. Lean to the Lions in this one, plus the 2.5. The Eagles. All right, so let's talk about the Monday night football game with the Eagles. They won the game. I'm not going to call it misleading, but success rate went to the Packers. Yards per play went to the Packers. Eagles did better on fourth downs, obviously. Defense was really good. Defense is legit. The Eagles are loaded on defense, healthy. I think they could have a great defensive run to end the season. The concern I have in this game, though, is Detroit really gets up for, like I talked about the Eagles getting up for the Packers last week, and they ended up doing that somewhat, but even though they only scored 10 points, the Lions really get up for these games. They went into Baltimore, remember, and beat them thoroughly. The prior year, they went into Kansas City, beat them thoroughly. They get up for these games. They've beaten Green Bay in Green Bay. So I could see the Lions coming in and winning this game. I lean to them. I like them in teasers as well, up to 8.5. But on the other side, you do have a ferocious Eagles pass rush that just gave Jordan Love fits. Goff is basically a statue back there. So could this be one of those games like we saw against the Vikings, where if you get home, if you send guys and you get pressure, especially up the middle, Jalen Carter is the one to watch out for in this game. Interior pressure. Goff just turtles. I mean, he ends up just half the time he just falls down to not get hit with a set. Like, I could see that happening in this one. So I'm a little torn. I lean Detroit, but I'm a little torn on the game. And also add on the fact that Jalen Hurts below a touchdown favorite at home. I mean, it's just basically automatic. I forget what the record is, but it's north of 90%. It's like 15-1 or something crazy like that. So you have that angle, but you have the angle of the Lions who really want to make a statement, get up for this game. Man, it's tough. This reminds me a lot of the Seattle Rams game where it's like, it's such a high profile game. It's a great matchup, but I don't have a strong situational edge on either side. There's no like angle I can really look to exploit. There's no matchup that I love that one team has over the other. It's kind of just like, hey, they're two great teams and we're going to find out who's better on that given day. Doesn't mean they're better. I have the Lions rated higher. Now, let me say this. This is -2.5, 115. If this gets to 3, this conversation I just had with you completely changes. Now I'd be on the Lions at 3. Because 3 is king in the NFL, all right? Don't let anybody fool you with all this other nonsense. 3 is all that we do. As a guy who I've beaten NFL sides for 5 straight years since I started this Lock Cash brand. 5 years, started in 2020. So I've beaten NFL sides for that long. And by the way, there were many years before that where I did not. So it took me a while to get good. But once I really got strict about it and made it into a process, I've been in these sides for a long time, the NFL markets, and I know 3 is all that matters. Everything that I've given you today, my leans have been about key numbers. So if you can bet effectively around 3, then you're golden. So if you've got a spread here that's 2.5, and it gets to 3, and you bought -2, you did a great job. And vice versa, if you waited and got 3, you did a pretty good job as well. Better to get it earlier because you're ahead of the market move, but still, if you can just play around these key numbers effectively, you're doing a great job. So if this gets to 3, my lean is already Detroit. If it gets to 3, I now have the number that I want. I'll play Detroit at -3. But other than that, I can't do much with this game besides maybe look to the lines in teasers. But I don't even love. Yeah, the Eagles are not this kind of team that's going to really blow you out. My concern though is Goff. Is like if they just get crazy pressure, force turnovers, a strip sack, like something like that, that can maybe blow the game open, and then suddenly your teasers are dead too. So be careful with that. Monday Night Football. This one will be really quick. Raiders home 3.5-point home dogs to the Cowboys. The Raiders actually played a solid game at the Broncos. This is going to be a little bit tougher test with them with the Dallas passing attack. We'll see if they can. Listen, the Raiders the season's basically lost. By the way, consider the tragic elements on the Cowboy side, losing a teammate like that, a fallen brother. That's a really, really tough thing to deal with. And now they're going to play a game. Obviously, emotions will be very high for them. Maybe a very strong defensive effort. He was a defensive player. Just keep that in mind. Not that it's the handicap is still the handicap. I make it 3. So at 3.5, I would lean slightly to the Raiders getting the 3.5 at home. But I can tell you right now that I'm not going to have anything on this game. But just consider that if you're looking at playing that, consider the handicap. The matchup favors Dallas on offense. On defense, if there was ever a game where the Dallas defense would play well, it's this one. Indoors against a weak offense, or so I don't say weak offense, but against a quarterback that makes a lot of mistakes, Geno Smith. They could force him into some mistakes. And then you add on the emotional element to this, the motivational narrative surrounding the unfortunate death. Like then add on that, and you've got an angle here where the Cowboys could play well defensively. Just numbers wise, my numbers say Raiders, but the situational spot I think calls for Dallas. So I'll be off of this game entirely. All right, guys, that was week 11. We went a little bit long this week, nearly an hour. I appreciate you guys watching week in, week out. It means so much to me. The channel is growing. It's growing slowly, but it's growing. That's all I care about. So I want to build a community here on YouTube. So please like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that stuff. Let me know down in the comments what you like. I can quickly recap. My favorite spots were, or my strongest leans were the Vikings -3 and the Chargers -2.5. And the other one was the Lions +2.5. I would say those are my 3 strongest leans at this point. I'll be back on Friday with the wrap-up show and a best bet. And as always, thanks for watching.